Good afternoon and welcome to the Jump Seat. My name is David Durstein. I'll be bringing you a industry expert here today, really to showcase some of the latest and greatest in vehicle extrication tool technology. But those of you who are joining us for the very first time, the Jump Seat is a bi-weekly spotlight, bringing you key industry thought leaders, subject matter experts, and next-gen insight affecting you and your department. It's hosted by myself, a jump seat fireman like many of you out there, with an occasional look behind the scenes at 200 plus years of our fire service tradition and the manufacturing of today's best products and technologies as well. So I want to thank you all for joining us here. And I love comments throughout the show. So if you are watching, you are new to the show, feel free to fire away comments in the comment field on whichever social platform you're watching, and we'll try to address them throughout the show here today. Crazy last couple of weeks in the fire service here in the U.S. as a whole. A lot of stuff going on. I had touched on a few things previously, in some other episodes. If you were with us 2 weeks ago, we talked about head protection and wearing the proper type of helmets when working alongside roadways, and what kind of impact that has on us. Appreciate all the folks from Texas who joined that week as well. It was a great show, and if you didn't catch it, you might want to jump back on and look on our historical shows from previous jump seats on the Jump Seat on Facebook, as well as the IDEX Fire and Safety YouTube page, many other avenues as well. But so one of the big things that's going on right now, if you're not paying attention, is essentially the burning in the West. And so, there's a huge fire right now burning just south of Lake Tahoe, the Caldor Fire, I think it is. Led to the evacuation of South Lake Tahoe, a huge tourist destination. About 55,000 people were evacuated out of the town, and it's continuing to burn there. I know that's one of many across California. And so if you are out there and you are one of those firefighters battling that, I just hope you keep safe and, be smart. We want to make sure we see you all here again in the future. The other big happening is Hurricane Ida. Rolled through Louisiana and Mississippi, and then it's on up through all the way through the Northeast U.S. in a crazy sweeping pattern, and affected many folks as well. So just want you all in Louisiana to know, I know there's many of you still without power. Maybe some of you just got power and you're just able to join the Jump Seat today. We're thinking of you, and be safe down there. I know many of us at IDEX Fire and Safety are doing our part to help pull together some critical needs items for those who were impacted by the hurricane, and are working to get them back down to those folks in need. Several of them were our customers directly, as well as friends in many cases as well. So glad that everybody that I'm really connected with is safe in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida there as well. With that being said, I'm going to take us right into the Jump Seat today. And actually, we've got, like I said, an awesome guest joining us here, and really a expert in technical rescue. And I wasn't even as in tune to as much technical wherewithal that he carries on an everyday basis. And from his expertise and background over the years in the fire service. Without further ado, I'm going to actually bring in Mr. Barry Hopper. Barry, welcome to the Jump Seat. How are you today?
Hey, Dave. How are you doing, bud? Thanks for having me on the show today.
I'm doing great. I'm doing absolutely wonderful there. And for those of you guys who don't know Barry actually is the National Sales Manager with Hurst Jaws of Life, and is based out of Georgia. He is a working manager and kind of covers the Southeast U.S. But Barry, I mean, yes, you've spent the last 6 years with Hurst, but your background really is in the fire service and strong in the fire service for many years. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about, your background and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I started out as a young man in the fire service, actually as a fire explorer with City of Conyers, which is east of Atlanta. Started out there and then got into the volunteer realm when I became old enough to volunteer, and then jumped into the career. I went to the EMT school and did some years, a year or so downtown Atlanta on the med truck, and then got hired on with the city of Forest Park, which is just south side of Atlanta, and did that for 24 years. Jumped out of there, retired there from the Forest Park for battalion chief, and then went into the state of Georgia Training Center, where I became the tech rescue coordinator for the Georgia Public Safety Training Center, and did everything from trench rescue to rope to auto extrication, and anything tech rescue as the state required. So I had a pretty cool career, and I think that just kind of segued me into getting involved with Hurst. Really enjoyed these tools, and it was just a really good marriage once we got hired on in 2016. So
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you in the jump seat here today, and I
glad
can
to be
tell
here.
you that our viewers are as well, because I'm getting all kinds of comments here. So right off the bat, I know that you got to know this guy. Toot Lee is firing off a hey everybody. So we got Toot in the house. Hey Toot, great to see you. And we got some Go Berries out there. And hey, Barry's my man. So you got fans already, Barry. You didn't even know it, but they're
I
here
didn't know
watching
that. I
you
mean,
live.
I guess I have to mail them a check.
Well, for those of you who are in fact watching for the first time, hey, we try to answer those questions live on the air. So if you have questions as we're going through out here today, fire away and put them in the comments field. We'll see them pop up and try to address them as we can, because we love hearing it and love the interaction there with you as well. And so, Barry, one of the big things when I think about, my 23 plus years in the fire service now has been the evolution of automobiles, right? And they've changed a
Mm-hmm.
lot in the last 20 years. They've changed a lot in the last 40 years. And I would say
Absolutely.
even in the last
Absolutely.
20 months.
Absolutely.
And I know there's an evolution in tools, because I've seen it in my own department. And I get to witness it here by working with you guys as colleagues on a regular basis here now. And maybe tell us a little bit more about what's happened in the tool world and where things are heading for the future. I know Hurst just rolled out a brand new set of tools there at FDIC here a couple weeks ago.
That's correct. Yeah. What we're really excited about is the fact that, as you alluded to, the vehicle technology has evolved. It keeps evolving. Like you said, I mean, it seems like on a monthly basis we're out there trying to figure out what's the next best thing, in vehicle manufacturing, and what are they doing to make the cars more able to sustain a life in a high speed impact. And so that's one of the things we struggle with, is how do we stay in front of that with tool technology. And that's one of the things I'm really pleased about with the E3 tools is, we've had no planned obsolescence with the tools as vehicle manufacturing goes. These tools are totally upgradable. We can actually take these tools, see what's coming down the pipe, and do some studies. And that's one of the things I love about my job is I get to do a lot of study and going to new car manufacturers and cutting on these newer cars that are coming out of these manufacturing plants and seeing what our tools do and how they react to the different types of metals they're putting in the cars. So it really helps us figure out what's the next best thing to do, whether it's increase pump pressure, increase speed, those types of things, and even the types of blades that we use on the end of the tools to how to make the cut. Is the tool swing so rapid that the rescuers having to fight the tool out of the patient compartment. So that's one of the things that I really like with this new advancement of blades, which I'll show you some pictures of and get to in just a minute, that really I think helps the rescuer when it comes to tool swing mitigation. Where we're making 2 points contact 20 months ago, and now we're making 4 points of contact. It doesn't negate it. It actually reduces it to a point, as long as the operator's paying attention to what's going on with the tool. He should be able to overcome that tool swing inside that patient compartment, which we know is a no man's land when we're operating the tools.
Yeah, I think that's one of those key things that we forget about. And I know Toot's on here, and one of the big things that I had with Toot when we did this him on the show here before was, hey, practice exactly like you're actually in an actual scenario. And so don't
Absolutely.
just take two cars from the junkyard and push them together. Take them and damage them. Make some impacts. Make it so you actually now have intrusion on the patient compartment. So it's more realistic, and now you have to worry about tool swing more because it's not all the room in the world to work with.
Absolutely. And fortunately, that gentleman you're talking about, I get to spend a lot of time in the junkyard with him. And, one of the things that is hard to duplicate is as car manufacturers, way they design vehicles, whether it be the lower A pillars, the B pillars, those types of things, upper A rails. It's hard to duplicate ultra high strength steel in a junkyard car sometimes. So, I mean, there's other ways. Like I said, we get out there and show these skills with a junkyard car, but it's hard for us to relate the product on what we're trying to do and how we're trying to cut it and changing tactics. Because one of the things we've proven many times is the fact that an old school technique may not work in a new car technology just because of the ultra strength steel. And that's one of the things that we're doing a really good job of trying to get that message out there and showing these people the new techniques that you may have to do even with these ultra high strength steel cutters, that you may have to change a little bit of your methodology a little bit to get out there and make these high strength steel cuts.
Yeah, I think you bring up a couple other good points, and the differences from a junkyard car to a late model car. And I always think about, just a couple weeks ago we were at FDIC, and I think about 2 years ago when we were at FDIC before, and we've had new late model vehicles in there. Actually, we just cut on a brand new 2021 Ford F-150 Lariat
That's right.
in the booth. And for those of you guys who didn't get a chance to see it, it's actually on Hurst Jaws of Life's Facebook page. You can go back and view the extrication cutting at FDIC. It's also on the Jump Seats page as well as IDEX Fire and Safety. So if you missed it, you can always go back and watch it as we tore apart these awesome F-150s. But so Barry, this new tool, this E3, is really kind of exciting for you. What are those big advantages and maybe different from the previous generation? I think that was what, the EWXT was the previous generation?
That's correct. The EWXT was our first tool that we actually were able to go 100% submerged underwater and to be able to have an IP rating of a 6.8 on a battery that was interchangeable underwater. So we pretty much revolutionized the electrically energized hydraulic pump that could go in the water and do it safely. And that was a big feat. A lot of man hours of testing and those types of things to be able to get those tools to perform. And so far, they have paid off pretty big dividends. We've had a couple successes around the Southeast where these tools have made a difference on those late night, rainy day water filled ditch calls. That they didn't have to worry about the tools. So we've had a few successes with it. So advancing from the EWXT, which is a totally upgradable tool, we went into the E3, which you'll notice the E3 and the EWXT look very similar. The only thing that's different is the dash cap here that has, a lot more little icons and things like that, which we'll go through on what all the icons tell you here, versus the EWXT, which I'm going to step over here, and you'll see that the EWXT looks exactly the same. It just has a power button versus all the other icons that are associated with the new generation of tool. And again, like I said, no planned obsolescence on the E3, so therefore we're upgradable. So you'll notice that the only thing that looks different is the actual icons on the actual control panel. So, Dave, if you don't mind, I'm going to flip my camera around, and if you want to go through, we'll talk about the actual what everything does.
Absolutely. I'll drop you out quick, let you flip around, and we'll pull you right back in when you get your camera back up and on there. And so, as Barry's flipping his camera around here and getting us set back up so he can actually show you and do some demonstrations on there, once again, I'll reiterate that fact that if you missed any of the extrication cutting from FDIC, you can watch it all again on the Jump Seats Facebook page, IDEX Fire and Safety's YouTube page, as well as the Hurst Jaws of Life page on Facebook as well. So we had a lot of great content and educational pieces from FDIC. We had some folks from Tesla up there on a panel along with some other great experts out there. And so Barry's trying to get his camera squared away there, and I'm stalling here as he does so. But with that being said, I'll wait till he's up and running, and we'll get right back to the new Hurst E3 tools there. And I see Barry, but it looks like it might not have worked there, Barry. Oh, did I lose you? Oh, there it works. Yep, I got it now. All right,
okay. Perfect. All right, let's flip around here. All right, so here we go. I mean, sorry about that. I mean, trying to learn how to use this program today. So as you see on the front dashboard of the new E3 tool, looks exactly the same as the EWXT. However, there's a lot of different features that we really like on this tool. You have over here to the far right is the saltwater indicator. And then you have the temperature light here that gives you the internal temperatures of the, electronics and stuff like that. And then you have the turbo button here. Right below it, you have the power indicator for that matches the battery indicator on the back of the battery, so the user knows, what the battery level and life expectancy should be of the battery. And then we have over here a pressure intensification gauge that kind of lets you know when you're getting on a cut that you're getting in high pressures, that you need to be paying attention, paying and controlling whatever you're cutting, and make sure that you don't have anything fly off the car. You're getting at that critical point in the cut. Things we've changed down here is we actually have illuminated directional indicators now that actually illuminate to let you know in a dark environment that you're closing or opening, depending on the direction of the tool. And then you have the center power light here that'll light up and have a blue ring, but it also does another thing, is if you are cutting a hinge or you're cutting something and the tool rotates more than 15 degrees, the actual indicator will turn red, letting the user know that you've increased enough torque and pressure on the tool to where you actually have a possibility of breaking the blade. But however, that light does not take anything away from you from the tool. It's just a decision-making tool for the user to decide whether they want to stop or readjust their cut on the vehicle.
So there's a lot of information on these new tools available for users that was never there before.
Absolutely. And one of the other things I think we're doing too that I really like is the fact that we're data capturing. So the tool's intuitive as far as what it's doing and how much it's used on the scene. We can actually download the programs and actually see how the tool's operating, how efficient it's operating, and make adjustments as needed. So pretty neat deal when it comes to rescue environment, because I started in the 80s and late 80s in the fire service, and I can tell you I never thought in my life would be able to have computer generated programs on a rescue tool. So advancement's amazing with technology. So let's turn the tool on here and let's see what the lights show us. So as we said before, the battery indicators over here showing you what the life of the battery is. We have the blue saltwater battery into the tool, so therefore you get an illumination of the saltwater icon to let the user know, hey, look, if I am in the surf and I need to go into the ocean, that I am capable of, putting this tool totally submerged underwater, doing whatever I need to do in a saltwater environment.
And Barry, that's a brand new feature, right? That was not on the EWXTs, correct?
None of these features other than that power switch are on the EWXTs. That's correct. So the temperature
now
light's
we're able to utilize the Hurst tools in saltwater, where before it was just really freshwater applications.
That is correct. It was just freshwater capabilities, and currently still on the EWXT, that is still the only thing you can put the EWXT tool in is a freshwater environment because of the corrosiveness of the saltwater. Obviously, we had to change some things in the back of the tool. So.
Awesome.
So let's talk about, you got any other questions about this, Dave, before I move down to the box style cutter blades?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I think you mentioned there, and one I want to kind of point out that I think is a huge piece of that puzzle, and that is, with modern vehicle technology, we're not cutting as much anymore. A lot of times we're building up hydraulic pressure, right, until we actually have the metal fracture and come apart on its own. And so
that's correct.
I think that visual indicator there on the left on your pressure indication is a huge piece of that puzzle, because many times I think people they stop too soon. I don't see the blades move anymore. I'm done, right?
That's right.
And that's not necessarily the case, correct?
That is correct. And that is one of the biggest things that we see when we're out doing training is people give up on the cut way before the tool does, and because they're just not familiar with what to listen for in a hydraulic type situation. So, each tool, whether it's a cutter spreader or a ram or a combi, will actually let you know when it's actually hit its max pressure and go into relief. So it'll give a pulsation sound, which I'll run through it if you don't care.
Yeah, go for it.
And it'll give you an actual pulsation that let you know that I've given you max pressure capability, and that's when you need to readjust your cut finish that cut. So.
Yeah, I think that's a huge benefit because you're right. Too many people give up too soon, and really they were so close to really getting that
Right.
cut to actually happen.
That's correct.
And time is of the essence in that piece of the puzzle. The other thing too, I just want to reiterate, you mentioned, and I guess I have a couple questions about, is the rotation. You said that again. If I rotate that tool, what is it, beyond 50 degrees?
15
I'll get
degrees.
Okay.
15,
and I'll
15
get
degrees. Yeah.
15 degrees. I'll get the indicator light, and that, obviously, it would be horrible if you broke a blade. Breaking blades is one of the worst scenarios because now the tool is completely rendered useless, and you got to get a second tool out or call for another truck to come in with tools accordingly. And so, I think did we have any of that feature before? That's a new piece as well.
No, that is an absolute new feature that we have on the E3 tool that was just introduced at Indy, because the EWXT and the E2 version and the E1, the whole hydraulic line prior to this didn't have any indicator other than the educational limits of the end user, whoever's operating the tool. And a lot of times we know that a lot of folks, let's just face it, I mean, don't get on extrication tools a lot, and they expect a cutter to cut every time they put it on a piece of metal. And one of the things that we're trying to do is educate people on, how to cut, because we want to make sure that they understand that the blade has to move across with the item that it's cutting. The way the blades are designed, and we'll go down to the blades, is it's a box style cut. So when this blade swings around, it's going to pull that tool toward the yoke of the tool, the center bolt. So the closer we get to that center bolt, the higher forces we can exert on whatever we're cutting. And therefore it's going to help cut, that high strength steel, Tesla B post, that Mercedes B post, Volvo, whoever it is, it's going to be a lot more capable of cutting that instead of way out here on the leading edge of the blade. No cutters out there on the market are designed to cut on the front leading edge of the blade. We want to cut back here in this notch closer to the center bolt, because again, Dave, I mean, I keep using the word cut because that's what everybody understands, but we're actually fracturing steel. We're actually pinpointing enough pressure on each side of the piece of metal to where we actually fail it and it actually frags apart. So that's why we're saying with this pressure indicator up here is a very important tool, because we want you to see that high pressure coming out before that fracture happens.
Yeah, I think it's, and I look at those blades, and I think back over the years, Barry, in my experience, when I first started in the fire service, 20 some years ago now, I can tell you my blades didn't look anything like that, right?
Oh, no. Yeah.
And whether it was on a combi tool back then or it was on our big cutter back then, man, have they changed dramatically. But I can tell you what, having the opportunity to run one of these now and actually get them onto some modern cars, it makes a world of difference of how it handles, but also how it actually does, in fact, cut or fracture as well. It's so impressive to see the changes in the last 20 years in evolution of blade technology and tool technology. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, going out and trying to do these training classes is you're trying to change that methodology of how we cut, because 90% of rescuers go out there with a cutter and they go parallel to the rocker panel, and then they have to deal with the tool swing inside the patient compartment. With this big style box cutter here, we can go perpendicular to that lower B or that lower A, making those big cuts without compromising inside that patient compartment. We still get some tool swing. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not going to do away with it completely, but it definitely takes it down to where you're not getting inside that patient compartment with a big exaggerated swing from an old style, let's call it a Y mouth cutter. Unlike this box cutter. This box cutter is definitely something that definitely cuts down on the amount of cuts you have to make, because on a lot of B posts out there, not all of them, we're able to make one cut through that B post, where in previous history with the old style cutters, we were having to do two cuts, and sometimes three, depending on how wide that B post may be.
Hey, I had a question kind of come in here, Barry, too, and they were asking this came from Jim Bundren. Is that the widest opening cutter on the market today?
As far as I know, I'll have to research that to confirm that. But as far as I know, that is the widest cutter blade opening we have.
So So Jim, maybe more information needed, but we know it's one of the, if not the largest on the market. Great
Yeah,
question, Jim.
it's definitely a wide mouth cutter to take care of most bee posts in one cut. Um, and I want to go back up to the turbo feature because I feel like we need to say this button here. So when we activate the tool, we can actually rotate through the speeds. We can go through standard speed, really small frequency, and then we can go straight into turbo. And one of the things I want to point out that I really like, and I wish I had a car here to demonstrate the turbo feature, is the fact that when this thing loads up and goes to second stage with the pressure gauge and all this stuff, it'll go back to standard speed. So we don't want to be so fast that we outrun, educational limits of the user and paying attention to that most crucial point of the cut. We want to make sure that when we're getting there and cutting that final cut through that high strength steel, that it's a very controlled, manageable speed. We do not want something just flying out and cutting so fast that it either swings the tool so fast you can't control it, or the metal fell so fast you can't control the metal flying off the vehicle. So we always recommend that anytime you're making that final cut through anything that you got to open end where you've already cut one side, that you do something to positively control that B pillar, that piece of upper A rail that you're cutting out, whatever it is, so you don't have any flying pieces of metal. So that's why I'm really proud that we've kind of done the research and said, hey, look, we don't want a fast speed cutter all the way through the cut. We want to slow down and go back to standard speed when it comes to that final breakthrough, that final fracture of that steel.
I think you mentioned a couple things there in that fracture of the steel and the energy that actually happens. Actually, I did see a Hurst video just the other day. Actually made it came even ultimately from Toot Lee, but it showed actually that fracturing happening on a hinge and actually the hinge coming apart and the really the launching of the top end of the hinge up and into the air and back down, if I remember right.
Absolutely.
So it just shows you that stored energy, that kinetic energy that's ready to just pop at any given moment when you are cutting or spreading at a given point today. And so, I guess one of the questions too is, Barry, if I want to know more about these tools, where can I go learn about the Hurst tool? And is there any recommendation if I want it? Can I get a demo? How do I go about that?
Absolutely, man. You can go, first stop would be jawsoflife.com. Go to our webpage and then search our dealer locator by state. And then you can go into your dealer location. There you go. There it is up on the screen there. And then we can get demos. We prefer demos. We would love to come out and show these tools, let you put your hands on them, cut cars up. We want you to make an educated decision off of what you need versus, cost. We want you to buy tools based off of what's going to get the job done on a consistent basis.
So, I mean, when I think about this brand new tool that you're showing us here today, I mean, it's obviously, I think the headline's there. We decided it was time to flex a different muscle here, right? And change things up again. Is this a limited number of tools that's available on, or can I get this on a full range of tools?
Absolutely. We sell 3 spreaders, 3 cutters, 3 combis, 2 rams. So our whole line that we offer that you'll see on the webpage is offered in the E3 version of the tools.
So Hurst isn't holding anything back. You get the whole range all at once right now.
Absolutely. And again, we want you to make an educated decision. If you want the biggest cutter, we absolutely have it available in the E3. If you want the smallest cutter, because you're adding to an existing set of tools, I mean, we want you to be able to do that.
Well, Barry, I want to just say thank you for joining me today in the jump seat. It's been educational for me, and I think for many of the followers here, particularly when you look at really some of the changes in tool. It's giving you information now that you didn't have before. It's making that data available to the user. And I think it's a great move. And I want to congratulate you and the rest of the Hurst Jaws of Life team on that awesome advancement. And I hope it's very successful for you guys as well. We just had one come in. A Kirby Wilson Jr. said, "Call me. I love cutting cars and training with brothers and sisters in the fire service." I think Kirby is in Texas. Am I right?
That's right. He is in Texas.
If you guys are watching from Texas, call Kirby. He'll be glad to help you out. But as you said before, jawsoflife.com for more information on the new Hurst E3 tools. And Barry, I know once again, thank you so much for joining us here today in the jump seat. You really are a wealth of knowledge, and those of you in the southeast part of the U.S., you've got a great resource right there from Hurst. But not only on extrication, on many other technical rescue aspects of things. So, Barry, I'm going to drop you out here, but hang tight. I'll be right back to you as we wrap up the show. Once again, I just want to say thank you all for joining the Jump Seat. If it's your first time, hopefully you enjoyed it, got some informational pieces of the puzzle here, and great feedback on the Hurst Jaws of Life new product line that they just rolled out at the FDIC. As a Jump Seat announcement, we've been doing this bi-weekly, but next week there is a special event, and it's the 20-year anniversary, unfortunately, of 9/11, and so it's an important thing for us at Akron Brass, at IDEX Fire and Safety, Hail, Hurst Jaws of Life, as we all were very instrumental in keeping the folks of FDNY up and running and operational after that horrible and tragic series of events, not only New York City, but also in Washington, D.C. And so an annual event that happens at Akron Brass is we never forget those 343 fallen firefighters, and we do a tribute every single year. And so stay tuned to some of the advertising on social media. I'll get the exact times drilled down. I believe it's going to be about the 9:30 hour. And we're going to do a special episode bringing you, our Jump Seat fans, live to Akron Brass, and really showing those commemorative memorial services and the tribute we give to the 343 fallen firefighters each and every year. So hopefully get a chance to join us next week live here in the Jump Seat for that special event. We'll be back again in 2 weeks, Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock. For our standard Jump Seat episode as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, like us, share us on your social platforms, and we'll see you again here in the Jump Seat in 2 weeks. With that, thank you all. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next time in the Jump Seat.